Sashimi is one of those foods that looks incredibly simple at first glance. A few slices of raw fish placed beautifully on a plate, perhaps with some shredded daikon, a green shiso leaf, a little wasabi, and a small dish of soy sauce. To someone seeing it for the first time, it might seem like a dish where almost nothing happens. There is no frying, no boiling, no complicated sauce, and no mountain of ingredients. But that simplicity is exactly where the mystery of sashimi begins. Because sashimi is not a dish built around adding flavors. It is a dish built around protecting and revealing the flavor that already exists inside the ingredient. It represents one of the deepest ideas in Japanese cuisine. When nature creates something extraordinary, the chef's job is not to overpower it, but to carefully bring it forward. The word sashimi, written as in Japanese, literally means pierced body or pierced flesh. It sounds unusual, and even the origin of the name has several fascinating explanations. One theory connects it to the old Japanese practice of attaching the fish's tail or fin to the sliced meat so people could identify which fish they were eating. Another explanation comes from the traditional killing method known as ikejime, where a spike is inserted into the fish's brain immediately after catching it. This strange-sounding technique was actually developed because Japanese fishermen discovered something important. The way a fish dies affects the quality of the meat. But before we understand how sashimi became an art form, we need to travel back thousands of years. Japan is an island nation surrounded by some of the richest fishing waters in the world. The Pacific Ocean, the Sea of Japan, and the East China Sea have provided Japanese communities with seafood for generations. Archaeological discoveries from the Jomon period, which began more than 14,000 years ago, show evidence that ancient Japanese people relied heavily on fish and shellfish. Shell middens, ancient piles of discarded shells and bones, show that seafood was not just an occasional meal. It was a major part of survival. However, the sashimi we recognize today did not suddenly appear in ancient times. It developed slowly over centuries as Japanese society, technology, and culinary philosophy evolved. During the Nara period between 710 and 794, Buddhism became influential in Japan. Buddhist teachings discouraged the consumption of certain meats, especially from land animals. As a result, fish became an even more important source of protein. This helped strengthen Japan's relationship with seafood and encouraged chefs to develop more refined ways of preparing fish. The idea of presenting raw fish in an elegant way may have been influenced by Chinese culinary traditions during the Kamakura period between 1185 and 1333. China had long traditions of preparing raw fish dishes, and cultural exchanges between China and Japan introduced new ideas about presentation and aesthetics. However, Japan transformed these influences into something uniquely its own. The first written evidence of sashimi-like preparation appears in Japanese culinary records from the late 15th century. A cookbook from around 1489 describes methods of slicing raw flesh and combining it with seasonings. This shows that by this period, Japanese chefs were already treating raw seafood preparation as a sophisticated culinary practice. One ingredient completely changed the future of sashimi: soy sauce. Today, many people cannot imagine sashimi without soy sauce. The salty, rich, umami-filled liquid seems like it has always belonged beside raw fish. But soy sauce became widely established in Japan around the 15th century, and it transformed sashimi by adding depth while still allowing the fish's natural flavor to remain the star. The beauty of sashimi lies in its relationship with freshness. In many cuisines around the world, cooking is used to transform ingredients. Heat creates new aromas, new textures, and new flavors through chemical reactions like the Maillard reaction. A grilled steak, for example, gains its characteristic flavor because heat changes the proteins and sugars on the surface. Sashimi does the opposite. It avoids cooking completely. Instead of creating new flavors, it preserves the original ones. This is why the quality of the fish becomes everything. A professional sashimi chef is not simply cutting fish. They are making hundreds of decisions before the knife ever touches the ingredient. They consider the species, season, fat content, texture, and even how the fish was caught. One of the most fascinating techniques behind premium sashimi is ikejime. When a fish struggles after being caught, its muscles use energy and produce lactic acid. This can negatively affect the texture and flavor of the flesh. Ikejime was developed to reduce this stress by instantly killing the fish and preventing excessive chemical changes. Fishermen can preserve a cleaner taste and better texture. After this process, the fish is rapidly chilled, often using ice slurry. Temperature control is critical because raw seafood is extremely sensitive. The entire journey from ocean to plate is a battle against time. This is also why the phrase sashimi grade is so important today. Although it is not a universal scientific certification everywhere, it generally refers to fish that has been carefully handled and considered suitable for raw consumption. In many countries, freezing procedures are used to reduce parasite risks, especially for fish that may carry organisms such as anisakis. A common misunderstanding is that sashimi and sushi are the same thing. They are closely connected but not identical. The difference is simple. Sashimi is sliced raw fish served without rice. Sushi is a dish built around vinegared rice, often combined with seafood or other ingredients. Sashimi focuses almost entirely on the ingredient itself, while sushi creates a relationship between rice, seasoning, and toppings. This difference reveals something important about Japanese cuisine. There are many dishes where the rice, sauce, or cooking method shares the spotlight. But sashimi places almost all attention on the seafood. The knife itself becomes a symbol of skill. A traditional sashimi chef often uses a long, single-edged knife called a yanajiba. Unlike many Western knives that cut by using pressure and a sawing motion, the yanajiba is designed for a smooth pulling movement. A skilled chef can create a clean slice without crushing the delicate structure of the fish. This matters because the texture of sashimi depends heavily on the cut. A poor cut can damage the cells of the fish and create a rough texture. A precise cut preserves the natural structure and allows the fish to feel smooth and delicate. Different cutting styles are used for different ingredients. Hirozukuri is the classic rectangular slice commonly seen with tuna and salmon. Uzukuri creates extremely thin slices, often used with firmer fish like flounder. Itozukuri creates thin strands, sometimes making squid resemble noodles. Every slice is intentional. And then comes the question many people ask: why eat raw fish? The answer is not simply tradition. There is a scientific reason people appreciate sashimi. Fish contains natural compounds such as glutamate and inosinate, which contribute to umami, the savory taste humans find deeply satisfying. Fatty fish like otoro, the rich belly section of bluefin tuna, contain oils that melt at body temperature. This creates the famous buttery sensation that sashimi lovers describe. Different fish offer completely different experiences. Tuna provides a clean, dense texture. Salmon offers richness and a soft, almost melting quality. Squid provides a unique snap and chewiness. Sea urchin, or uni, has a creamy texture that many people compare to a seafood custard. Sashimi is not one flavor. It is an exploration of the ocean's diversity. The accompaniments also have a deeper purpose. Wasabi is not just there to provide heat. Real Japanese wasabi has a fresh, sharp aroma that rises through the nose, rather than creating the burning sensation associated with chili peppers. It also contains compounds that may help inhibit certain bacteria. Shiso leaves provide a refreshing herbal note. Daikon radish adds crispness and cleans the palate. Pickled ginger, known as gari, is traditionally eaten between different pieces to reset the taste experience. Even the decoration has meaning. The shredded daikon beneath sashimi is not simply for appearance. It helps separate pieces, maintains presentation, and contributes freshness. Small chrysanthemum flowers sometimes appear as decoration and historically were also associated with preservation qualities. Sashimi also reflects the Japanese concept of shun, meaning appreciating ingredients at their seasonal peak. A Japanese chef does not simply ask, "What fish is available?" They ask, "What fish is at its best right now?" Spring may highlight sea bream. Autumn brings prized fish such as Pacific sori. Winter is often associated with richer seafood and fatty tuna. This connection between season and flavor is one of the reasons sashimi is deeply connected to nature. But sashimi has not remained only within Japan. During the late 19th century, when Japan opened to the outside world during the Meiji era, foreign visitors began describing Japanese food traditions. Western travelers were often surprised by the idea of eating raw fish, but some recognized the sophistication behind it. By the second half of the 20th century, Japanese cuisine began spreading globally. Sushi restaurants appeared across North America, Europe, and other regions. As sushi became popular internationally, sashimi also gained recognition as a symbol of Japanese culinary excellence. Today, sashimi is enjoyed everywhere from high-end Japanese restaurants in major cities to seafood markets in coastal regions. However, globalization has created new challenges. The popularity of sashimi has increased pressure on certain fish populations, especially bluefin tuna. Overfishing has become a major environmental concern, leading many chefs and organizations to explore sustainable seafood options. Modern sashimi culture increasingly focuses not only on taste but also on responsibility. Sustainable fishing methods, responsible aquaculture, and careful sourcing are becoming more important parts of the conversation. There are also many modern interpretations. Some restaurants create a buri sashimi, where the surface is lightly seared while the inside remains raw. Others use ponzu citrus sauce instead of traditional soy sauce. Outside Japan, chefs have developed fusion versions inspired by sashimi techniques, including vegetable-based alternatives using ingredients like avocado, tofu skin, and konjac. Yet despite all these changes, the heart of sashimi remains unchanged. It is about respect. Respect for the ocean that provides the ingredient. Respect for the fisherman who handles it carefully. Respect for the chef who prepares it. And respect for the person eating it. A great plate of sashimi does not try to impress you with complexity. It impresses you by showing how extraordinary something simple can become when every detail is treated with care. That is why sashimi has survived for centuries. It is not just raw fish. It is a philosophy placed on a plate. It teaches a powerful culinary lesson. Sometimes the highest form of cooking is knowing when not to interfere. Because when the ingredient is truly exceptional, the greatest skill is not hiding nature's flavor. It is revealing it.